where you get into sort of locking in a little bit more natural experience.
When is your guy? Are any of your defenders going to turn around? They're still running. They are still running. He is in zone. He is in zone in the end zone.
Broken.
99-yard touchdown run with Drew
I'm
Aller.
glad we recorded that.
So yeah, we're pretty excited to try this game out against each other. We've never played each other. We've talked back and forth. People have probably seen us talking on Twitter about how perfect or imperfect the game is at any given moment.
Fun fact, I've never played anybody on anything like Madden or any sports game, so only the computer. So I'm either really bad or really good. I don't know. And I don't play a lot of football anyway. Madden or otherwise, so this ought to be fun.
You know, it's an experience. And I think a lot of what we're trying to do here is just talk about the game. So I will lead off by saying the presentation they did on the entrance for the teams, the graphics quality. I know it's the Frostbite engine, and everybody has an opinion on them reusing Frostbite for everything, which is both mostly fair and not entirely fair, mostly fair. But I think the presentation's phenomenal. I mean, it's not a little thing to have this much attention to detail in the stadiums.
Look at this detail right here, Josh. They've got Michigan fans up in the top right corner of the upper deck. Like that to me is a really cool. I know a lot of teams do that. I'm looking at it right now, and I can see Michigan fans up there, put away from everything. I guess say Notre Dame fans. Sorry, I'm not Michigan. We talked about Michigan. One of the things, Josh, I want you to touch on, because we said, we got a lot of heat for saying it's not just a Madden reskin, and a lot of people came back and said it's just like Madden. And I think there's some confusion there with, obviously, it's football. You can't get around that. And two, it's the Frostbite engine. Other than that, I don't think it's very much of a reskin at all.
Yeah, that's Penn State football right there. I mean, it is the Madden engine for sure in sort of its most base form. But I don't think that completely does it justice, because there's so much more variation in terms of player speed and that kind of thing. I mean, it's football, right? So, at some point I'm going to get a pass off. People are probably laughing right now, but it's going to take us a minute, guys, because I'm sure most of you have not tried to have an entire conversation while actively playing. And I'm quickly learning that that's a lot harder than I anticipated. I may get picked. Yep. I misread that. That was me. That was zone, not man.
That's the first time in playing this.
Well, it's when you play people, flat. It's different. So. And that gets to an interesting point, right? There's been a lot of conversation about how kind of ridiculous the computer is, and I think it's a pretty well-founded conversation. But the flip side of that coin is when you play player versus player, I think you get more of a feel for how ridiculous the computer is in many aspects, because suddenly your defense looks like a different animal than it did when you were you're playing by yourself versus the computer.
You're talking about going back to the conversation around the engine. It's EA's engine, so it's not even just Madden. It's Frostbite is for a lot of things, and I don't even feel like it moves a lot like Madden. I play a little bit of Madden every year, not a whole lot, and it doesn't even feel like it moves. Just player movement and everything. It feels a little bit faster, a little bit weightier. So from that standpoint, I just don't think it's a Madden clone, and it's frustrating to me when people or even after playing the game are like, yeah, it's a Madden clone. But in general, Josh, would you say that they've done a good job in the actual gameplay of encapsulating college football? Because yes, they've got the atmosphere and the spirit of the game, the intros and all that. Talk about actual gameplay being faster.
Well, I mean, certainly things like the RPO are in this game that aren't, aren't something that's normally in Madden. But I think the biggest thing, apart from some of the differences in formation and gameplay and play types, which I think are maybe a little more trivial, it is the speed of the game, the difference in the speed of the players. Everything moves a little bit faster. I think the game is a lot less punishing in some ways when you're on the move. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in Madden, so I'm kind of careful not to say too much there. Yep, you got in. But overall, I think the general experience is a little more loose in the way college is. And one of the funny things to me when you watch videos is people often show videos of how ridiculous or unrealistic this game is. And half the time I end up watching it and being like, yeah, that's something I've actually seen happen at a college football game before, you know? Like, it should be a little bit zanier just by nature. Oh, yeah, we need to discuss kicking there. But
I'm actually really good at kicking, but I was trying to get through that animation or that cutscene by holding the A button, and I held it too long, and it held over to the kicking meter. I've figured out the kicking a little bit, but I do miss a PAT every once in a while, and I'm not paying attention. And that's the good thing. The thing about this game, like, yes, it's hard, but what it does for me is you can't go on autopilot. Like, you can still win games against good teams, but you can't sort of zone out and just kind of win on autopilot. You have to really think through it or you get punished. Oh my goodness. All right, so in talking about playing a game like this, do you play it straight up like a college game would be played out? Like, have you noticed that type of realism in it, or is it still a little bit like spammy, not very much situationally aware?
It's realistic enough. I wouldn't call it ultra realistic by any means. I think the biggest thing to me in terms of how it plays is, so far, my experience. Oh gosh, it's not going to make the sticks. I'm doing great here, guys.
Are you going to go in true to form video game fashion and go for it, or are you going to punt?
I'm trying to think the best way to put it. Particularly corner routes, in my experience, flag routes have been tough. I mean, the computer's ability to undercut a pass is kind of extreme. Extreme in a bad way. And particularly if you try to throw over coverage towards the boundary, you have problems. I mean, I've already thrown an interception, thrown a couple dangerous passes. I don't know why I'm playing quite so bad today, but we'll see if I turn it around here in the next quarter. Yeah, I know.
I'm just score, Josh.
I think the run game is probably underrated because some people find it boring, but I feel like the run game actually feels pretty good. You can move the ball pretty well and pretty successfully.
Yeah. But it's not, to me, like, I've seen a lot of videos where the run game, like, a runner is juiced, but it doesn't feel like it's so overwhelming. Like, it feels pretty natural. Like, good running backs, good offensive lines can consistently move the ball, but you can't just get 7-8 yards, 50 yards. Like, you have to earn it a little bit, and that's what we were talking about before. Josh, when thinking about a game like this and the first update they're going to have to do, what would you say, if you're going to go like negatives or things that they really should be looking at to update? What would you be like? Give me like the first three things that you would look at to improve.
I mean, the first three things I would look at, I mean, the biggest thing that I've seen so far has been the issue with corners being able to pick off passes thrown thrown way over what should be way over their head. They tend to be able to run them down with way too much consistency. I'm trying to think. The other thing I would say, I mean, outside the fact that it's definitely the fact that the computer's accuracy rate on All-American or Heisman on offense is ridiculous. Like it's not uncommon, and I know you've run into it where the computer is throwing 85 to 90% passing every single game, which is just kind of absurd. And it's honestly
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of fun if you can score a lot. It gets a little frustrating, but it doesn't really feel like football, right? And Heisman, look, people talk about Heisman and how it plays. Heisman's designed to be kind of a cheat mode because it's the assumption is you know the game well enough that you know what plays to call that work and what plays that don't call. And at some level, Heisman necessarily, even if it's not cheating from like a speed perspective, the computer's going to be sort of hyper aware. So I can't really, fault it there. But I think for the most part, it's the AI with the passing game that's bothering me.
I think I sent you a note the other night. I was playing Vanderbilt with a good team, and man, this lag is killing me. And I had 7 turnovers, and I hadn't had more than 2 turnovers in a single game. I had 7 turnovers, and their quarterback was 25 of 27, and this is an All-American. And the thing is, like, the gap between All-American and what is the level down, varsity or whatever, is huge. Like, you can win games pretty much on autopilot by 40, 50 points, and then you get All-American, and it's so inconsistent. And that's probably my biggest complaint is if you look at the simulation engine, and look, we build models, and we know it's hard, but, Georgia got blown out in this week 2 against an FCS team in my season. And really bad teams are winning comfortably over really good teams. And that's something you don't see in college football. Like, you see upsets, but you don't see Vanderbilt beating a top-ranked team, by 2-3 touchdowns. It never, ever happens. So I think that they're going to have to maybe bake in a little less parity, and not even less parity, but like less of the wild results to make playing through a dynasty more fun and more realistic, because you don't want to get into the playoffs with your team and have, 5 G5s in there and FCS in there or whatever. It probably isn't eligible. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's all fair. The issues with Sim, I think, are being pretty well documented. That the game is didn't get the pass off. The tendency for underdogs to win is way not realistic, and I'm not sure. Oh man. Yeah, I know.
There's a lid on it.
Both of us, man.
And let's nerd out on that a little bit, because you've built a model that's on our website. We've run that model for years now. What do you think they're doing? Because they've tested this game for years, and they've seen the results. Like, what do you think is going on when they're building these models? Because that's what the simulation engine is, even down to the simulation to change a possession. Like, what are they doing? What are they maybe getting wrong in their core logic in their models to have such inconsistencies? Or do you think they've intentionally programmed it in to just be either random or
it's hard to say exactly how their system works, right? Are they actually simming every play? I don't think they are. My suspicion is they probably are using a lot of randomness in their yes, I should not be taking the ball out. I know that, but whatever. That's not fun. Yeah.
I take it out every time.
I think it's just a general randomness engine on quality of play and players, and it just sort of makes up stats for each game.
This really is Penn State football.
Well, that's my fault. I called it an RPO, and I haven't played this quite enough, so I did the buttons wrong. I'm just going to own that. That was me. It was being a noob. That was a better throw.
Nice. So when you play this, and I think you play mostly against the computer. Do you have comfort plays that you drop into when it's 3rd and 8 and you need a first down that you found? Like, is it maybe middle of the field looks open more, or you throw a lot of outs? What do you do when
The
you
middle of
need,
the
when you
field
need a
has
first
generally been the best place to throw if it's open. And the game is kind of weirdly all or nothing. Um, in general, you kind of have to do some sort of angle route most of the time because I have not found a lot of depth throws to really work in this game. The pick rate is high. Oh.
down? Drop rate's high too.
Yeah, drop. Well, the game is pretty punishing that if a guy gets hit as he's trying to catch the ball, he's going to drop it. Pretty much consistently, he's going to drop it. So anything you do is generally going to need to be based around a seam, and if guys are in man, they get burned over the top. I'll say that's one big complaint I have about this game too is man coverage is like almost like it does not cover over the top. You cannot run man without some sort of safety help because you're going to get torched.
Yeah, I don't run a lot of man. The only time I run man is if I'm just there's not a lot of heavy blitzes out of zone.
Oh my gosh!
It's
But like that play right there, that really shouldn't have been a pick. Like in normal footballdom, the way way he broke on the route and where the safety is, that ball should be thrown deep and outside. It shouldn't really be within range of the safety. Because the safety, well, that's the thing. Is it? I'm kind of trying to, but he undercut that route by like 10 yards, and the game is just not realistic with how much error is under the ball. If that makes sense, like everything's a little too flat, and it lets those corners undercut it. I think people are all complaining because there's a lot of plays where you see the corner overcut stuff, but that's kind of the inherent problem. Is it's just how flat the ball's thrown, and it means it's easier to overcut a route because the whole reason why you can't overcut most of the time is the ball goes over your head, right? Like, because the ball is thrown on an arc, it's not thrown on a line. And maybe that is a little bit more Madden-ish because in the pros they do throw a much flatter ball, they put more velocity on it, but that's not the case in college. And I think it's also a little bit of a byproduct of the way that the passing system works in this game, where you throw the ball and you hold the button down right until you get the right sweet spot. It doesn't give you maybe the proper ability to determine the speed of the throw or the depth of the throw on a given pass. Yeah.
If you throw it out, see what's interesting there is that pick six. That happens to me a lot. Because I don't run a lot of motion, and so you have so little time. Like, I think what I've noticed in playing you is you have more time to throw the ball. Like, the offensive line's blocking a lot better here against All-American base sliders. There's a free rusher every play, and so a lot of my interceptions come from not realizing that there's zone coverage. And if you throw anything to the boundary against a zone look, it's an interception every time. The computer covers flats really well. The hold on, I'm thinking. Your player, like your defense, does not at all cover flats at all, so they're always open if you're thinking about where you're gonna get beaten by the computer. One thing, the whole stadium pulse thing and getting confused, it's really good. It doesn't completely cripple your team, Um, but it does make it like it adds another layer of challenge that gives a team a home field advantage that I think is pretty cool. Wow, good swim. So, do you find yourself on defense um, mostly picking a
Right
guy on the
now, it's
line
not the best way to play,
when
I'm
playing
sure.
defense?
And I'm sure at this whole video, people that are big Madden guys are probably screaming, right? But it defensively, in this one in particular, it's so easy to screw up, and you've probably already seen me do it 2 or 3 times in this game. And the problem, I think, is actually due to the player selection is pretty wonky in terms of when you switch guys. I'm never switching to the guy that I think I am. I just have not figured that out, and I don't think it's just me. Um,
Yeah. Um, so what I've found, because I usually play a linebacker in coverage or a safety when I play Madden, because it's more fun. Like it's safer to play a defensive lineman and rush passer, um, but it's more fun to play that coverage. And what I've noticed in this game is the computer is really good about realizing that you've made a mistake in coverage. And one of the things I think I've picked up on in this game is if you play like some sort of non-defensive lineman, non-pass rusher position and you cover well, then that's how your team plays overall better defense. So it kind of hinges on how well you play your position, how well everybody else plays. I've noticed that. So that's
that was
another
zero
reason
awareness
why
play
it's
by the D
kind
tackle
of
there.
hard
He just
to
clean ran away from the linebacker. Whoever's coming on a blitz just blew by you. Again, it's hard for me though to call that a flaw. Like I have a really struggle with this game sometimes in figuring out how much of this is sort of mistake by design, right? Like an awareness issue and whatnot, and how much of it is just animation lock. Yep.
That happens in real football. I do like we're having a bit of a defensive struggle. Do you play 6-minute
usually
quarters
play 6
against the computer, or do you play longer? I play 10 because generally, I don't know if I'm going to do that anymore, given the kind of numbers that the computer's putting up against me. But when I played Madden, 9 or 10-minute quarters get you statistically about right. Because I don't know if it normalizes or not, but you wouldn't win any awards if you're getting 25 points and 200 yards in a game. Because I think the standard is 5-minute quarters. I'm not sure.
Oh.
All right.
I am not.
Have you started a Dynasty yet?
Sorry?
You just been playing kind of exhibition type games?
Yeah, pretty much.
been
I
playing,
haven't
like,
had
exhibition
enough
games?
time to really dig into start a Dynasty. I've watched stuff online of people playing, but I just haven't had time to really start one up myself. Have you?
Yeah, I've started a Dynasty. I played like 1 or 2 exhibition games. My thought was, I'm going to suck, but also, to me, it's not fun if you win a national championship in your first year of a Dynasty. So my thought or my question for when you do start a Dynasty is, are you going to pick a good team, like your favorite team, or are you going to do like what a lot of people do and pick a crappy team?
Yeah, I mean, I think
start from the bottom.
my approach there would be probably do a couple seasons with my favorite team and just sort of win a title or two, and then do the whole, oh man, he's so much faster than anybody on my team.
Yeah, you had numbers. I actually shouldn't have. Like, that's one thing that's pretty accurate about this game, and I love that it tells you who your reads are for like mesh point option type stuff and RPO stuff. You can really be effective if you can properly read it. I just haven't. I will run away from numbers on like an RPO quarterback keep, but in general, there's not enough time. You got to do it pre-snap, whatever you're going to do RPO wise. There is no reading if the linebacker collapses or the safety collapses or whatever. What is it, 19-7? You taking points here?
I mean, the play's to go for 2, but
okay, Lane Kiffin. Actually, you'd find a way to go for it on 4th down right here if you're Lane Kiffin. Okay, so there's another game mode that I played around with a little bit, and that's the Road to Glory. And some of the complaints about that are you don't start in high school, which is a valid, fair complaint. In previous iterations, you'd play 4 or 5 games, I think, in high school, and there'd be a few different scenarios. So that is kind of a bummer. But you also have some more options. So you can start out like a 5-star, highly recruited guy all the way down to a nobody. And it's pretty cool because like what I did was, because I know a lot of people were like, I'm a junior and I still haven't got any playing time. What I did was I was a 4-star player, but then you can see, it'll tell you every team, like their interest level and what kind of offers you would have. And those offers will be like, we're very interested, and our offer would be that you would be a, starter, day 1 starter, wide receiver 2 or 3, or a bench player or whatever. And so I went in as a 4-star to a kind of a low-tier G5 and got plenty of playing time. Had a 1,200-yard season. And you can play through a season pretty quickly. So I enjoyed that mode a lot.
Yeah,
One of the other complaints, Josh, and I want you to touch on this, there's not a lot of instruction. And so that's something that I've found, like in playing Road to Glory, like not knowing controls and stuff like that. Have you seen a lot of like this is how you play the game type tutorial? Because all I've seen is mostly like review stuff.
Yeah, I think that's
roughing the kicker.
Kind of been a problem for me because I'm not a Madden guy like you are. No. Oh my gosh.
Are you serious?
Something had to go my way. But like, why did the first guy just run over the ball? I don't know. Like, what did I do wrong?
That is not.
I don't know. I think it seemed perfectly fair, judging by the status of this game so far. It seems very reasonable and fair and proper. Yeah, I know.
99.5-yard drop coming up here, Josh. Okay, so I don't know how much Madden you've played, but graphically, how do you feel it compares? I've heard some people complain that it doesn't look as good as Madden. To me, like, this is the only way you're going to score. To me, I'm so used to NCAA 14 that I'm just blown away by how good it looks.
Yeah, I don't really play, if you can tell, don't play Madden. And it's interesting that you were, beforehand, I think you were convinced that I was going to beat you to a pulp, and that is not happening. Now, I don't know if this, I thought this may just be a bad game for me, because I can usually throw the ball much better than this. But yeah, it's not happening, but some of that's probably just familiarity with the system. And I've tried to do some stuff in this, like RPO a couple times, and I've learned Like I just haven't played the game enough, and this playbook is one that I'm admittedly not that familiar with. And a couple times in this game already, I've called an RPO or something, and the play was designed to go a lot faster than I was comfortable with, and I just didn't execute it, and I handed off when I wasn't expecting to or something. And it's tough. Like it has a real learning curve, and I think that learning curve is a good thing and a bad thing depending on circumstance. Case in point, I don't think you knew you were gonna.
Oh, okay. So here's an interesting thing that just happened. So I caught an audible at the line, but one of the things in this stadium pulse thing is people get confused and they don't hear the audible calls, and that's what happened there. It ran the original play. Nobody heard the audible. It's kind of cool. I mean, it wasn't cool for me, but it was cool to see.
Yeah, I've tried a couple
Man, screens are
in this
tough.
game. I think a lot of it, we talk about some of these things that are quote unquote broken aren't actually that broken. It's just sort of the nature of football. And in this case, these are two good defenses, and our quarterbacks are both really struggling getting the ball off quickly. I mean, Aller is not the fastest dude by any stretch of the imagination, right? And I'm having issues in this game a lot of times getting the ball off on certain play types, and I've kind of had to adjust to that. Adjust as much as I can, given that you're, throwing interceptions too fast for me to ever. Up. Am I gonna get? No, I'm gonna get run down.
I've never had I must be doing something wrong because I've never had in Madden or this game more than like a 5-yard punt return ever. Like I'm instantly, my gunners are always behind or just ignore the they ignore everybody running towards the punt returner, and I'm instantly
What was that? The lead halfback just slammed into the DT. Nobody picked up the middle linebacker, who just straight crushed me. That's okay. This is Penn State football right here. I've just conceded that we're not going to throw the football. Okay, you got to stop calling me lame. That's really hurting my ego. But
maybe I am trying to goad you into going for it.
I'm down 6 in the fourth quarter, so. Oh man.
User
That's a good
tackle.
play.
That engage 8 turned into engage 9.
Can't.
So my challenge in playing you is that you play a lot of zone, and I don't throw across the middle a lot. I throw out routes. I throw corners. So that makes this really hard. And I don't have my normal playbook that I'm used to.
Yeah, I picked up on that pretty quick. You threw so much zone, so I just started calling stuff with a lot of hard corners.
And I think that's how what I've seen a lot of people do is play that way because slow white boy. Every like good player that I've seen on Twitter, they're like just hard flats, because the offensive line is so poor at protection that, like you said, there's not a lot of stuff develops. So you're covering most of your bases if you can do hard flats and stop the run. And what do you feel? I don't know how much you've looked at the team ratings, but what do you feel in terms of how everybody's rated? Oh, that's crap. I'm sorry, but that's crap. And that's a good example of what you were talking about. In that you had whatever defense you called, you had a corner that went with a wide out, or it might have been a crossing route. It was a crossing route. Corner went all the way with him in a zone, which is, I'm assuming you had a zone called. And the safety was charging to the line, turned around, ran, even though he didn't have the angle, ran with him, and then there was a third guy that was there. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of crap, right? Like even the guy that tipped the ball he's out of phase, and that's the thing I think is a little frustrating is how many times can people make a play on the ball when they're that badly out of phase. All right, Daniel, you gotta throw the ball now. You're losing due to new. I was about to say you're losing to no fault of your own, because heaven knows I haven't done anything offensively. Which, this is on brand Penn State football, right? We're going to win we're winning the game 21-20 with -6 passing yards at this point, something like that.
Right?
But even like we're talking about the way the players work, it still has one realistic thing with college, which is I'm struggling with some of the athletes that Notre Dame has defensively at times. Like when your guys get the ball in space, they do generally get the edge of my defenders. Not that Penn State is bad defensively at all. I mean, my front's doing a really good job, but I'm really, really struggling with the...
Oh, come on.
No.
Okay.
No! Oh, my God.
I'll take it. I ran an option, fumbled the pitch.
I mean, my guy is stepping on the ball, and then one guy tackles the other. It's great. I mean, that's what you're looking for.
You're talking about not keeping up with skill players, and that really happened there, didn't it? You shift over 4-3.
You got it.
Good block, 74. Good block.
All right, now I actually have to score.
All right, now you have to play offense.
See if I can actually run a competent offense. No.
And talk at the same time.
Well, it's hard for me to do anything to start with. So talking's, it's probably just one challenge too many, right?
So one of the things that
oh my gosh,
we didn't get an advanced copy. We weren't important enough. Oh no. You're going to have to score again.
Like, the break the linebacker had on that ball.
It's pretty good. Yeah, so that was the thing I was going to say earlier is in Madden, it used to be that linebackers were completely overpowered in pass coverage. Like they could stop the run but also magically appear 13 yards behind the line of scrimmage and get an interception on a crosser. So they've fixed that a little bit.
I mean, am I crazy? I did not feel like that was a play that realistically the linebacker should have had. I mean, I had my eye on him, but there was a huge window.
No, I mean when I do things poorly, I usually blame the tools as well.
He's gonna break on that. Like,
Pick. That was underthrown. That wasn't the. I don't think this was. This was. Did you get the full yellow on the throw? Because he was open.
yeah, I thought so.
But it wasn't on a rope.
But
Reese Davis is letting you know that the clock's running out. No pressure. That's crazy that your defense was fully prepared for a pass play.
yeah, I know.
Everyone was covered. All right, so we've gone silent for a little bit. The drama of this game is over. If you were gonna give this
Oh my gosh.
a 0 to 10 score on a review, and not picking it apart for some of the things that
I think right now I'd give it an 8. I mean, it's a really good game. It's fun. It's fun to play. The graphics are good. The presentation's really good. There are a couple things holding it back from greatness, and it's the normal things that frustrate Madden fans a lot, right? You know, we've talked a lot about some of the computer difficulty issues, and I do think there's some weird difficulty spikes. Varsity is really easy. At the same time, I think All-American is maybe a touch too hard, or at least hard in certain ways. And that's... I have not...
have you played around with the sliders at all? I will say I think that's necessary, and that's, I play a lot of MLB The Show, and you've got to, and I've full seasoned that game before. You really have to.
Well, that was a bit of a panic throw on my part, because if I didn't throw that the moment I did, it was going to be a safety.
And I think that's okay. And for anybody listening, Operation Sports, there's on that forum, there's always great sliders there. And that's probably where you get into sort of locking in a little bit more natural experience.
When is your guy? Are any of your defenders going to turn around? They're still running. They are still running. He is in zone. He is in zone in the end zone.
Broken.
99-yard touchdown run with Drew
I'm
Aller.
glad we recorded that. That is. Oh my God! I'm so glad we recorded this.
All right, you always look when you're doing a video, something that you can, something you can cut.
Got a pilot or behind the goalpost cam working overtime here.
Not only were your guys completely oblivious,
absolutely,
but the guy in the end zone, when he turned around, he was sitting in zone, like he was stuck in zone in the back of the end zone. Oh shoot!
100.
Yeah, I hit the wrong button.
Out because you're going to do a normal kick return. It happens to all of us. Who had Drew Aller going 109 yards on their bingo card?
24. I'm watching a replay.
And I had the trailing guy that probably could have caught up with him. I wasn't really trying that hard because I kept expecting that. Oh my God!
So the suggested play for me right now, by the way, on coach's suggestions at Flip 2 was immediately a 70-yard field goal. I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Nice. I had two guys run right by the ball to block somebody. Wow. Ridiculous.
Great.
Stop and join your handiwork. I don't know if I want to go.
I don't know. I mean, Drew hot feet.
It's really dangerous.
Hot feet Allen is going to burn you anytime. That was the weirdest thing where the ball came out of his hand just there. It like turned around backwards before it released.
So, wow. That offensive line doing work. That's crazy. Do you feel like, I don't know how much you've noticed this or paid attention to this, but like one of the complaints in previous Madden games, chair just broke, in previous Madden games is it has an equalizer in there. To even out games.
I don't know that I've really felt that. I've seen
some
stuff. One thing that's really frustrating to me when you play the computer is I feel like every game goes wonky one way or the other. And I don't know if, and I think it may have hit me in this game a little bit with the like that underthrown pass. It feels like this game's almost overly sensitive to like momentum from quarterbacks and whatnot. And it happens with a computer. Like most computer games, either I jump out to a lead and kill them, or it's a tight game and they're going to win or get close to winning. I know I had one game where my quarterback fumbled the ball 3 times in the first half. And then like I played the same game over again and I won by 30 the next time. Just like how you start the game has such a weird impact on stuff. Oh, shoot. And just like there, I was trying to switch to the edge defender, and I ended up getting the guy in coverage. I just have not gotten used to the way the players switch yet, which makes me almost scared to do anything defensively.
That's not good. It's not what you want.
No, because you called a timeout, didn't you?
No, because it was out of bounds, or I was coming out of timeout.
Yeah, it's definitely tough playing.
At all.
The clock did not run on that play.
9 seconds.
Don't believe it ran at all. Somebody can rewind the video, and maybe I'm wrong, but unless I'm crazy, that was the same clock that we had on the previous play.
We had 9 seconds on the play clock on the previous play. Maybe.
All right.
55 yards. This kick meter is going to be wild. What's the slide button? I thought I pushed the slide button and he jumped up in the air.
The slide button's X. It's a light tap of X. I think. Yeah, I think you missed. I think you missed. And now we're in
It's
overtime.
physically possible. Oh,
I can't believe nobody deserves to win this game.
On a pick six.
No one deserves to win. So I guess they do have a coin toss built in because you can do it on what the crap? Okay. Glad that picked it for me because I had no idea. That was actually really hard to follow. It was defend left, defend right,
Yeah,
and I don't know.
weird.
I was trying to figure out in my head what that meant relative to the screen. Oh man, that's my own fault.
So I'd go 9 out of 10 if I was rating this game. I think some of the issues they have are just sports game issues. It's been pretty bug free for me, which is, on one hand, I'm surprised, but I think that's because I'm also used to annual release stuff. But I haven't had a lot of bugs.
I think that
have you had any?
end zone defense was a bug, but I don't think I've had a crash yet. I've had some slightly weird glitch stuff. When I first started playing, and I think they actually patched it in a day one patch, I had a lot of issues with when you're doing play selection stuff, it was showing up wrong. Like a receiver would just be shown in the backfield on the play screen. That's ball game, son. That was ball game.
That was.
Well, again, the balls are all too flat. Like your receiver is outside shoulder on that corner, and I'm yet to figure out how to really lead a guy properly in that situation to not, almost throw a pick there.
So, I saw press and your safety rolled down. I knew I had in most scenarios that's a touchdown, but you're right. Those are really flat ball. This is why you go on defense first. Got 2 plays to get it. That's another time the Audible didn't get.
Shame. I'm really upset about that, personally. Yeah, I would kick a field goal if I were you. I think it's obviously a field goal situation. I mean, you can do what you want, but... Yes!
Too bad.
Penn State football. There's nothing about that was pretty. But I still won.
All right, so... If you were I know you're like a serious gamer. For those who don't know, 120 yards. You had 109 yards from your quarterback on one play. So you've played this enough. Have you? I was a block in the back on that play. You've played this enough now. Do you think this is something that you would devote similar long-term, deep, 100-hour type attention to, or will you get tired of it pretty quickly especially when football season comes around, and then looking at your other backlog of games that you got to play. What side of the fence do you think you'll fall on?
Honestly, with the way my life works, I have so little time to play games. It's hard to devote a lot. I'm probably going to end up playing this some, especially in Road to Glory. And for me, for all the complaints about All-American and whatnot, I mean, we played this match in All-American. The computer's kind of hard. I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to sink enough time into it to really get good enough to do that in a consistent clip. But I can have a lot of fun just playing varsity with a Road to Glory player that I take a 3-star and try to develop them up, or take a mediocre team and play play on varsity and just try to win a bunch of games and recruit well and build them into an empire. If I had more time to where I could really get my skills down and try to do the same thing on a harder difficulty, I would. But to me, I'll have fun doing that progression, and I'll do it a couple times, and then I'll probably move on to the next thing just because that's what I have time for. I really, frankly, hate where the difficulty sits, because All-American for me is a little too hard for me to consistently have fun. Not that I can't win, because I do usually play the computer on there, and I usually win those games, even when evenly matched. Believe it or not, after you just watch me play this one, it's still just too hard for me to really have a lot of fun with it. And I do, at times I struggle, and if I start screwing up like I did at the beginning of this game, it goes sideways, and it's not fun. But on the other hand, varsity's too easy. I'm not going to lose a game in varsity almost ever. I mean, I can play with an inferior team and win almost every time. So that kind of pencils me in too. The other side of it is Ultimate Team. For years, I had always wanted to play a game mode, right, where you could take your favorite college football players and put them together on one team. That has a lot of appeal to me. But frankly, I have a hard time with Ultimate Team and the pressure to spend money and all that kind of stuff in it. That mode doesn't really have a long-term appeal to me. So I'll probably play that one short-term, where you get more packs and you're unlocking stuff and progressing. And again, when it turns into a grind, I'll probably stop. And I think that, for me, Daniel, that's probably where I stand with a lot with this game, is that I'm going to have a lot of fun with it one-offs. I'll have fun playing with you. We're hopefully going to get, maybe we can get some guests and start playing these matches with people, either preseason or run up to big games, right? And we can talk out a big game coming up with a beat writer or something. That has a lot of appeal to me. But, in terms of something I'm going to play day in and day out, I've been playing Baldur's Gate for the last 5 months. I just finished Act 2. Now, that's a long game, but that gives an idea of how long it takes me to get through a game right now, just because of how little time I have with work and whatnot. And so, yeah, I mean, this is going to be something I probably play off and on. I'll probably play it in the season when I get anxious about a game. It's a fun way for me to relieve stress with that. It always was, or used to be, but probably not something I'm just going to play day in and day out as a main driver. What about you?
And I think that's the challenge, because to have something be really enjoyable, I've got a 7-year-old son who's starting to play video games, and he gets frustrated really easy, but then he doesn't get that enjoyment of playing something hard. You've got to play it on higher difficulty. If you're going to do a Dynasty and beat everybody 140-3, that's not fun. But it's also not fun to lose to Vanderbilt when you're the number 4 team in the country and have 7 turnovers. So I think that to me is the challenge, because if you don't have a lot of time to play it, you don't have the gameplay muscle memory and the playbook muscle memory to be able to win consistently on higher difficulty. Because like I said before, you can't kind of just quiet, sleepy win a game on All-American. The other thing, I think you have to put a lot of effort and time into games that you're going to burn to get your sliders locked in. And so I think this is an awesome, incredibly deep game for people who have the time and that really want to get into it, because there's also the recruiting aspect of it. There's pretty good depth in Road to Glory. For the money, even if you paid the $100, there's so much more value here for the money than a Madden, or much more than something like a Call of Duty that's a joke if you have any interest in the single-player stuff. I love that. I think for a lot of people, it's going to be really good for that. For me, I probably will devote a little more time to this just because I don't have much other games in my backlog. But it's going to take 2 seasons of Dynasty to get sliders where it's not too easy, but it's more realistic. And I think for anybody out there, the thing that I've found the most effective is beefing up your offensive line a little bit in the sliders, computer's offensive line down a little bit in the sliders, because what you've got to do to beat the computer is you got to get sacks. Your defense is never going to cover well enough to stop that passing game. So the only way you're going to have incompletions is the sacks. All right, Josh, give me a sign off on this game. Just after 10 years of waiting, what you think overall?
One, I'm rewinding that Drew Aller touchdown play in the highlights, and I'm going to tell you that every single player on the field that was in zone coverage stayed in their zone and didn't move the entire time I ran down the field, which is why no one ran me down. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to send that tape to
I think that's
CA HQ.
Like, to some degree, that's the game, right? You know, it's a 99-yard touchdown run that you watch replay and realize the zone coverage is broken. Like, it's just a couple steps away from true greatness. I think everything is really good, and they put a lot of time and attention to it, but it does have a lot of those bugs. I'm actually hopeful that to some degree with the difficulty issues and whatnot, that they can patch that. I think if they make some adjustments to the game and how it's played, I think it could be pretty good. And if that doesn't happen, look, sliders are going to make it great. So I think, she's a 7 out of 10 and maybe a 9 out of 10 with sliders. But I'm just happy to have the game back. I'm happy to be able to play it. I'm happy to be able to, play that game when your team loses and you're mad and frustrated and you just jack that thing all the way down to freshmen and put 110 on them. That was a college tradition, right? It's enjoyable. So, I'm just glad to see college football 25 back.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure they're not watching this, but if I could give a shout out to anybody on this team, my world is a lot in. I'm a software engineer, but a lot of my world is in user interfaces and just usability, and the amount of effort their graphics team and their user interface team, their UI UX team put into the detail, the graphic design, the treatment, down to like the loading screens and the splash screens when you first log in, team selection screens. I'm looking at right now the stat screen, and you've got just the little detail of the fabric or the tape on the logos where there's the wrinkles in it. That's so cool, and that's attention to detail that they didn't have to do. Like they put a lot of effort into making the game better in ways that didn't necessarily make them any money, and I can appreciate that, especially coming from EA, who's not known for that. All right, y'all. Thanks if you've hung out this long with us. We're going to play probably this some more, but we're going to talk real football, not this football, which I think will help us maybe have the mental juices flowing a little bit, and we don't care if we win or lose, so we can talk ball with that. Let us know what you think about this. Let us know what you think about the game. And, hey, it's football season right around the corner, so we're going to start churning out more content. Thanks so much, y'all. Have a great week, and God bless.